So the last stop in this story is off the Three Rivers Trail at the Catamount Community Forest. And this is an example of what would happen if you took that forest from the second stop and you told a logger to go cut all the big pine. So in this stand in 2016, there was a forest management project where that's exactly what happened. So you had this really interesting, diverse, complex forest, which included those big overstory white pine, and also multiple generations of other species, hemlock, different hardwood species. Very diverse forest, both in terms of structural diversity and species diversity. Now, by any traditional measures, those big white pine trees were economically mature, which just means that they were worth as much as they were ever going to be worth. So if we were thinking about a forest as a commodity and something that we were managing solely as a resource, those would be trees that we would want to cut. The problem with that, while it is totally reasonable to want to harvest local renewable resources from our forests, is that of course we know that forests are more than just timber. We know that those big pine trees, besides being full of beautiful wood, were also really important habitats, and that the fact that they were there added a completely different canopy layer, added that extra element of structure and also species diversity to the forest. So with them gone, what we're seeing is basically the inverse of how we really want to manage forests. We want to manage forests in general that every time we do anything in them, we're making them more diverse, we're making them more complex. And what happened here was the exact opposite. Those legacy trees were removed, and as a result, this forest is less complex and more simple than it was before that happened. It's very hard to grow big old trees. And big old trees are the source of a lot of the really interesting properties of these old forests. So big old trees, when they fall, create canopy gaps, which is something that we really want to encourage in our forests. They're big crowns tearing down whole groups of other trees. When they die, they also become large diameter deadwood on the forest floor, which is something that we really want. And they, in and of themselves, are really, really important habitats. Cutting some big trees is not a problem at all. In fact, it's what we really need to do in many cases in order to get a new generation of trees established. But what we want to do while we're doing that is also make sure that we're keeping those components of legacy, of structural diversity, and of species diversity that we want to encourage in the future forest.